slate?
My what?
Your slate to go
No,
take one?
I don't have one of those.
You're a real pro.
I might get one. For next time.
Might need to get that. I think we're good.
Okay,
I think we're
great.
good. All right.
Well, we're here at Hanner Studios called Celestial Sound in Modesto.
Celestial Sounds, Modesto, California.
I want to thank Roger Hanner for letting us stay here and talk about my new album, and I want to thank you for...
Not a problem. I'm happy to talk about it. Thanks for sending me a copy early so I could listen to it.
You're welcome.
And, well, I don't know if you can zoom in on this, cameraman, but the brand new album, officially not even dropped yet, but fresh off the press as of yesterday.
You are like the first person to actually get a copy.
I think Roger was. I think you handed his first to him.
Okay.
So
it might have been a slight tie, but you could be right.
But in the range of the first.
Yeah, for sure. But actually,
fantastic.
You did get an advance copy already because I sent it to you in advance.
Yes, you did. So it was great listening to the songs. Rebirth.
Yeah.
Name of the album. Let's talk about that. Let's just go off with the title.
Sure.
What was the inspiration for the name of the album?
Well, I kind of feel like over the last few years, personally, I went through some changes. I think we all did, probably in some way or another.
True.
The times were affecting us in different ways. But personally, I was just dealing with what I would call some things of my past that I never really confronted or dealt with. And so I dealt with them, and it came out kind of in my music a little bit. Being an artist, some people might paint, some people are going to write. For me, it's a musical type of thing if I can capture a vibe or a feeling that I'm going through. So through the last few years, I felt like I just went through some personal changes in a good way. I felt like I'm in a better place than I was before.
Good to hear.
And that's why I kind of came up with that title as more of an aura, I guess, to what I've been dealing with.
All right. And the songs on here, were all of them written during the pandemic?
No, most of them. I released an album in 2018. You might remember the Transitions Project, which was really just a compilation of a whole bunch of stuff that I had been working on for like 10 years or something, and I just slapped it all on an album. And I actually listened to it the other day, and I felt like, wow, I kind of missed, some marks on that, but it was just something that I did as a project.
Yeah.
This album here, I have written most of the songs since 2018. However, a couple of them were written when I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
Track number 5 is called Dry Glass Blues, and I wrote that song in my early 20s when I was in college. And not too long after that, I wrote a track or a song called The Surf Song. That's which is on the album. But other than that, all the other ones are new.
All right. Yes. Both songs I thought were well done, well played. The Dry Glass Blues. I think was it a piano or organ interlude in there?
Yes. Mike Klooster was grateful enough to be on that track, and he did all the organ parts.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now that's another thing. Listening to the album, it's a full album. It's a full sound. There's a full range of musicians on each track, not just picking it up. You look at the cover, it's you and an acoustic guitar out in the mountains, but you get into it and it's fully produced.
Yeah, I really wanted it to be that way. I don't do all the music parts that I want to because I don't play all the music instruments that I'd like to. And so what I did on this album was I brought in what I would call some key players, to help me make those songs better and more appropriate, and using people with better talent.
Or at least more adept at the instrument that you wanted them to play.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like I'll never probably be able to play a saxophone, but on one of my tracks, I invited a local sax player to come out and do the recording, and he did a great job.
Fantastic, yes.
Yeah, that was Tim Durrani Sr. from Tracy.
All right. And this was recorded and produced in Tracy, California?
Yes, at Swooner Productions recording studio in my garage.
All right. Very nice, very nice.
Yeah. So not that it's anything fancy like Roger's nice studio here, but years ago I just mildly invested in some recording equipment, which I've been dabbling on for a while, and so most of the everything was recorded on that same equipment from like 2008.
All right. So consistency to it. At least the gear.
Yeah. Somewhat. The recording equipment never changes, but the instruments that I use use different guitars. I'm trying to like make that song sound like how I hear it in my head, and you might notice that I kind of cross genres a little bit.
A lot of bit.
Okay. And so, because I just love music so much, and I'm inspired by all these different types of music, and one day I might feel like I'm in a bluegrass mood or something like that, and there's certain instrumentations that make those tones. And so I have, specific equipment, if you will, to do that, or a punk rock song, or whatever else it is. And so the guitars change a little bit, the amps that I use and the effects change somewhat, but the equipment primarily is the same.
And then, of course, your skill levels over the last decade or so, from 2008 on.
Just keep getting better.
I'm thinking you got better.
In my opinion, I think if you just keep doing stuff, you'll continually get better at it.
Yes, and definitely, I'm sure your skills as a, recording engineer is, leaps and bounds from the day you first started.
Oh man, well, I first started on a 4-track machine when I'm like 18 years old or something. So going from a cassette, environment to transferring those to a CD. And then burning CDs, but it was still recorded on a cassette. This was 20-something years ago. And then eventually getting, some computer software and learning how that works. It's been a journey, but slowly getting better.
Excellent. Well, that's one thing that the bright light at the, during the tunnel of the pandemic is technology. Technology allowed for people to do things like this. As you said, yes. A couple decades ago, you were lucky if you had a 4-track recorder to mess around with.
Mm-hmm.
And those were limited, and you bounced things down, and you could do 16, 20 tracks depending on how many bounces you did. But
ping-ponging, yeah.
But, then there was a degradation of sound. Now with digital, you can keep doing it, and then there's no degradation of sound as long as you do it right. And just the cost and the value of everything. Microphones, the value is, or not, the value is still there, but the price points have come down. So you can get decent mics that are going to work well in a home environment that you didn't have, that you would have to spend $1,000, $2,000 on even a decade ago.
Yeah.
I mean, what we're doing here with the interview is something 5 years ago we wouldn't have been able to do.
Yeah.
So, I know you did some live streams as well during this time frame, and I think, thank you for that, and every other musician who did that, because for somebody who loves music and loves watching music, that's something that was lacking. So I think having those resources and that outlet for people on both sides, the musician like yourself, I'm sure it was cathartic, and definitely for everybody on the viewing end.
Yeah, and thank you to people like you who are fully, supporting and helping us just do that. Like you were running your live streams all the time, and I was just a part of it once. But I think music, it helped people get through, in some way. It was a glue. It was something to look forward to. It was something that lifted us from maybe a darker place. And it's neat to know that like, for example, I describe myself as being wired as a musician, just the way that I'm my DNA or whatever. And a few years ago, I made a decision to fully like embrace and succumb to this music journey and see where it takes me. And it's just neat to know that, like, for people like myself who are just doing, I guess, what we do because this is kind of who we are, to know that other people embrace, enjoy, and even like, what we're creating just out of nothing, so to speak. That is the reward, is when someone else gives a positive feedback to something that was created. I kind of equate it to, like, maybe fine food or beverages where there's like a real craft in it.
For
and
sure,
it kind
for
of
sure.
is unique to that person. The ultimate reward is to give that person some sort of a positive, thing to say, hey, right on, you like what I did, and maybe I'll do something else again. It just helps us keep it going forward.
And that was the sad thing about live streaming, is you didn't have that immediate. You could read the quotes or the comments later. You might even have a monitor that you can see them on while you're performing, but it's still not the same. You don't see the smiles or the emotion, the see somebody dancing, because however you move them, you don't get that. But when you're on stage and you have a crowd, regardless of your art, if you're a poet, if you're an actor, to look out into the crowd and see that you move somebody, even if you move them where they just hated it so much that they get up and walk out, that's an emotional reaction to your art. And it may not be the one you're looking for.
True.
But it's amazing that art has that ability. And that was, I think, one of the things lacking in the last couple of years without having live music, especially original live music being performed out. No offense to the myriad of cover bands in the area, but it's always a different response. You play a cover song and the crowd knows it, they're going to react in whatever favorable way that they would react if that song was played on the radio or even played on a jukebox at a bar sometimes. But when it's one of your own children that you're putting out there,
yeah,
that response is important.
Yes. And I go out and play. I play with the band. I play out solo. And most of the time it's a cover type situation, because that's the environment, that I'm at. But I'll slip in my originals in there and even announce them to the crowd. And a lot of times I get good feedback from it, and it's just like you said, it's just that initial right away response that
Yes.
Elevates the artist, right? And it's just like we got a pat on the back from the
Yes.
public.
And I'm sure sometimes if you forget to announce that it's an original song, if you see the crowd groove into it or move into it, that probably even brings you up a little bit more, because you're getting a similar response to your song when it's next to a legacy song.
Yeah.
Something that's been heard or played 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always nice. Let's get into a couple of the tracks.
Okay.
I mean, as you said, it kind of skirts the genres a bit. The Highway 1.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it definitely had a kind of a folkish country feel to it. A bit of twang on the guitar, and there's a few other songs that have that feel, and a few other songs that have that twang, but not the country twang.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed that one. And then Take a Ride, which I think follows it, right?
Yes.
Another country picker.
Yeah.
The first song definitely was what I was more expecting from a solo artist album. More folkish, more pop sensibility, straightforward. And but then here's these two country twang.
Yeah, Highway 1, that was one of the more recent, or I don't know if that makes sense. That was one of the tracks that I wrote towards the end of the album. I think I wrote it about a year ago. And I don't know, I just got into it, right? I was inspired by California, and I was inspired by driving on Highway 1, which I've done before. And the sights and things that you see in the towns that you go through, and you can get up from like Northern California all the way to Mexico if you just stay on it. And so when it came out with the music, I don't know, it just had that bass line that, you know, that goes back and forth, that 1-5, and it had a groove to it. And so I just locked in on it. And that was a song that I recorded fairly easy because it was just flowing and going. And then the Take a Ride With Me song, you say it's kind of country twang. To me, it feels like a throwback, but I don't know exactly what genre it is. It's something like 50s or 60s to me.
Yeah, I mean, a few of your tracks definitely had a kind of a doo-woppy kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
But it, to me, like, it's the guitar and it's just the tone.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely arrangement-wise and vocal-wise, a few of the songs on this album definitely had kind of a doo-wop. One kind of had a, you know, little bit of a swing feel to it almost. Not a swing song, but just had, you know, had a swing.
Yes. It's funny that you mentioned that. So my son is a musician. He's now almost 21. And while he was in high school, and even before that, he's a very talented upright bass player and bassist. And so when he was in high school, he was in the jazz band, and he would play with the, you know, kind of jazzy swinging type stuff when we would go see him play out live with either the school groups, or he was melding into other groups that would go play out, you know, at different venues. And so we would go watch. And for a while, I was exposed to a lot of jazz music, you know, the swing and all these different things that he was playing and I was getting a chance to see. And I really, like, I've always enjoyed that, like Brian Setzer to me, you know, Stray Cats and that kind of rockabilly stuff. The swing music, you know, from like maybe the 30s or 40s. Just, it's good music, you know. And so I was just kind of inspired by that during those years. Just kind of the way it goes, you know, I get inspired by different things. And so I was just picking up on that. And I think I tried to get that sound through the guitar. You know, I got like a Gretsch guitar, and I was doing some recording so I could have that tone.
It definitely seeped in then.
Yeah, thank you.
And then I would say Mistake and Dry Glass Blues, which you said was one of the earlier tracks that you wrote.
Yeah.
Definitely both verge, Mistake more than Dry Glass Blues, on psychedelic, you know, kind of a psychedelic kind of rocker tune.
I'll take that.
You know, definitely felt at home that you could hear that mixed in with some Grateful Dead. Not so much jam rock, but just the feel.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
And then Dry Glass Blues definitely had a little bit of, you know, I like the piano in that. Is that Klooster as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's playing some organ.
Definitely blues. But both solid tracks.
Thank you.
And then Dreaming. Did I write that down right? Can I read my own?
Yeah,
Dreaming. Yes.
Dreaming is an instrumental track.
Yes, and that definitely had a kind of a psychedelic kind of pop feel to it. You know, really fuzz drenched psycho pop kind of. Even could fit in with some of those bands from the late '80s, coming from the UK or even LA. You know,
that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I think they called it dream pop.
Dream pop?
I think. I don't know.
A lot of the vibe on that particular track comes from Mike Klooster. I just had recorded bass, drums, and guitar and sent it to him, and I'm like trying to describe to him like the way that music makes me feel, which is really hard sometimes when it's kind of out there, if you will. And so he took the information that I was giving him and added some old kind of like 60s keyboard sort of sounds. He would be able to tell you better what it is, but it's got that kind of rotary, you know, like Leslie cabinet, sort of thing. And so he put some nice piano on there, some strings, and brought it more to life. And so I'm really happy that he was able to add to that track.
Another bluesy number, Boy Without a Mom. but very, very more on the pop side of blues. Something that, especially once blues, white boy blues, we'll say, got popular in the States, and you started hearing a lot of those bands performing post ZZ Top, or even the ZZ Top stuff. It kind of has that sheen to it, but still, I don't want to call it emo, because it's not an emo song, but
it's a ballad.
Emotive.
It's a ballad. Yeah, it is emotive. Yeah. That actually is one of the songs that I could say it's like an autobiographical type of song. Sometimes I'm picking up like on a muse, I get like some sort of an influence, and I'll tap into that. And then sometimes I'm real direct with just getting stuff out. And so the Boy Without a Mom song is one of those tracks where it's just like, here it is straight up. But that has to do with me going through some of those changes I was talking about, and kind of realizing things. It's interesting how sometimes you don't predict the way that things happen to you when you were younger will come up, when you're older.
Very true.
Yeah.
A little bit more blues, Cigar Bop Hop, instrumental.
Yes.
And that's another one that kind of has, a little bit of a swing feel to it.
Yeah. So I'm interested in like what I would call alternative type of string instruments, and cigar box guitars falls into that genre. And through the years, I picked up a few different ones. So I have a 2-string bass made out of a larger cigar box. I have a 3-string cigar box guitar, and I have a 4-string one. And so in addition to those instruments, I was doing like hand clapping and foot stomping and tambourine, and some shaker. So the whole thing is very organic and acoustic, if you will. And I thought that it would be fun to showcase only those instruments in a song. And so there's nothing else other than cigar box instruments and those other
percussive instruments.
Yeah. And it's a fun little ditty.
Yes, it is. Talking about kind of the rockabilly twang, and I'm sure it was a Gretsch on it, but Hey Little Baby.
Hey Little Baby, right. That's actually one of the other tracks that I wrote when I was younger. It's an older track I wrote when I was in college. And yeah, that's the one with the saxophone player on it as well. I think it totally is trying to capture like a 50s rock and roll sort of a vibe. But yeah, I did use the Gretsch on that one.
I could hear that. I could hear that coming through.
Yeah.
And then, surf song. The instrumental.
Yes.
Definitely has that Cali surf. Not reggae, but has that vibe to it, where it's just you feel that you're just driving along the coast and
That's
checking
awesome.
out the waves on a hopefully somewhat secluded beach somewhere.
Yeah, it's pretty much a real traditional surf song. Like the way I envision it is I'm watching like somebody surfing, like footage,
Some
in
surf
the
competition
big,
or something.
like some big pipeline or Hawaii type thing, and this is the music that's playing in the background. So, but it's a very straight up surf song, and
You were hoping this would make one of those hang ten or some surf competition video.
You know
just
what?
like the skate videos we used to watch.
I might send it off somewhere and see if it gets picked up. But
There
if
you
it
go.
doesn't, I made it for us to enjoy.
And The Bench, closing track, for me, definitely had very emotive. I don't like using the word emo when you're listening, but it definitely had kind of a 90s emo feel. Not so much the tone maybe as some of those bands, but definitely the feel to it, and definitely a bit of country on there as well.
Yeah, that's my wife and I stayed in Santa Cruz in May. We had a chance to spend the weekend there, And we stayed at a spot where if we walked, a couple of blocks, we would be overlooking the ocean. And there was a bench right there that I sat at, and I had brought my guitar with me on that weekend trip. And I was just strumming, watching all the stuff, all the people, and it was right by the boardwalk too, so I got the chance to see. So we were up on this cliff. And so I just was like, it just came. I had my phone. I wrote down all the lyrics on the notes of my phone. I recorded it, onto my phone, and I knew like I had just written a song. But It was fully just inspired by being there. And
in the moment.
In the moment, yeah. And so the way it came out, I felt like, well, this could really use some pedal steel guitar. And so I contacted Cole Hinkle, and he was gracious enough to do some beautiful.
I remember when you had posted looking for a steel guitarist.
That's what it was for. And so Cole, thank you for your work. But he did an amazing job, and it just kind of captures, that vibe of that track.
Fantastic. Solid release overall. How many songs total? 14, 15?
There's 15 total tracks, 3 instrumentals.
All right.
Yeah.
And it's broken up in an A-side and a B-side, that's correct?
Yes, side 1, side 2. Being, coming up during the genres and eras where there's records and, they kind of are designed in a certain way. I just wanted to stay with that. And, if someone was only able to listen to half the album at once, I kind of wanted it to have a certain vibe. But I wanted it to also go into the side 2 if it could. And then I did a little bit of theory, or I guess I should say research on what I would say track order. And how to group them together possibly in a way that it flows nicely, especially when I'm jumping around all these different genres. So that was what I tried to do with the track order.
Excellent. And I think it's important. I wish more artists would look at that as well, because in this digital age, so many people just release a digital single and that's it. And on their own, great. But when they compile them, it's just, this one, and they just go in order a lot of times. It's really important, I think, to put that thought, especially when there's multiple songs. More important when you do have a record, because you want that last song to make somebody want to flip it over on both sides. So that ideally, and I did it, I'm sure you did it growing up, you got that record, it finishes last track on side B. And if it was a banger and that first track on side A was what, you flip it over again and you listen.
Yeah, about that. So the end of the first side of an album should make you want to listen to the next one. I don't know if I necessarily did that, because I really just tried to make it like a side. Because side 1 ends with Boy Without a Mom, which is like a ballad. But then side 2 opens with Hey Little Baby, which is that 50s swinging kind of rock song. So I wanted the second album to kind of open with, a lift.
Yes.
But then it ends with The Bench, which is a acoustic ballad, right? And kind of just fizzles off. But then it goes back into Free, which is the opener of side 1, which is kind of an upbeat rock song.
And it's harder to do that, the thought process, because it is a digital. It's not a record that they're going to flip.
Right.
I'm sure they could do that with a CD, where you could have an A-side and B-side. It would cost more because of the double plating and all, but I'm betting they could.
Yeah.
Just like an old Laserdisc where you'd flip it over halfway through the movie, just like those old 8 tracks that clunked right in the middle of your favorite song.
Yep.
But even still, even without that, I think having a well thought out order is important, and I think people, even if they don't realize it, it's better for them.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, it's too easy to just do a random, okay, here's 5 songs, they fit on this side, these 5 songs fit on the other side. If you're doing a cassette or something like that, just what fits.
Yeah.
It's like a good mixtape.
Exactly.
You have to have an order. You have that opener, that closer, and people don't think about that.
Yeah.
I have one friend who when he makes his Spotify playlist, he keeps them in under 60 minutes.
Okay.
And his thought is, I did 60-minute cassette mixtapes.
That's perfect.
And then later they had the 90, But I was like, no, if that's what you were comfortable with and mixing it down, do it. I hate pulling one up and there's 1,000 songs on there.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not listening to all this.
Right.
And after a while, you just stream it. It's like,
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad that you can you realize the value in the thought process, and because you're old school like me, we got to keep it like that.
Not as old school as Roger Hanner at Celestial Sounds. Happy birthday and congratulations to turning 65 years old.
That's right, Roger. Happy birthday. Man, you're a nice guy. Thanks for letting us come down here and use your studio. Any parting words?
Well, we gotta of course ask. I got one direct.
Okay.
From Erik Anderson, the brand new Rebirth CD. But for the folks at home watching and listening, where can they get this baby?
Well, if you know me, you can get one direct. It's not really like, out there on, it probably will be coming soon on iTunes and Spotify, because I made it through disc makers, and I think they kind of have those channels available, but they're just not available yet. But streaming, it'll be available locally. If you want a hard copy, they can get a CD. Other than that, they won't be able to get it.
And on social media, people can find you at?
I'm on Facebook, and I have a Instagram page. I'm not as active on it, but you can search me, Erik Anderson, songwriter from California, I think is what it is on Facebook.
As opposed to one from, like, Nebraska?
Exactly. Yes. You got to just, distinguish yourself.
Yes. It's like Yngwie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who I'm talking about, Yngwie?
The guitar player?
No, the electrician. Yngwie Q. Malmsteen. Yeah, Yngwie J. Come on. That's a time I don't think you need a middle initial. If you're named Yngwie,
well, there is a famous,
and Malmsteen.
There's a famous, I want to say he's a folk singer, but from the 70s, named Erik Anderson.
No, I mean, and that's the thing is, Erik Anderson is not a super uncommon name.
Right.
It's like Middagh. Middagh is so common that you got to worry about it. It took me weeks. I had to do underscores and dashes. No, it is important, I think, to establish that. But Yngwie Malmsteen, I don't know another Yngwie, let alone another Malmsteen. Maybe in his country that was very common.
Probably.
So he needed that middle initial.
Yeah. Well.
I don't know. But, so on Facebook they can follow, send you a message and say, I want to buy this. Can I give you some money?
There you
Will
go.
you send it to me?
Venmo, Zelle, send a check in the mail.
Old school.
PayPal.
Well hidden cash?
Show up at the show and get one
You got
live.
any shows coming up?
I'm kind of taking the winter off. I usually I don't like playing out when the weather's bad and it's cold.
When it's frightful.
When it's frightful, exactly. I'm kind of a fair weather live guy. I hate to say that, but it's true. So the next thing that we've got going on is going to start around March or April.
Okay, in the spring?
In the spring, summer. I will be performing solo acoustic shows in the area.
As Erik Anderson?
As Erik Anderson, songwriter from California.
And as a band?
I play bass in the Bad Vibe Killers, and so starting in about a week or two, the Bad Vibe Killers are going to be rehearsing and getting ourselves ready so that by springtime we're really going to be ready to go play.
When things warm up?
Exactly.
Yes.
So we spend the winter indoors getting ourselves better. And so that way when we come out, we're ready to rock.
Fantastic. I think that's the important key things. New album out. You can get it from Erik Anderson if you see him. Also, if they need any financial advice, is that correct? They can talk to you?
Absolutely.
Insurance, is that part of that?
Yeah, some life insurance. If you want to mix that in there, we can talk about that. You want to talk about that?
Oh, I'm okay myself. Yes.
Okay.
I like to live dangerously.
I can see.
Yes.
Yep.
I walked here today, and this is a bad neighborhood.
I saw you walking up the street when I
Yes.
drove up today, and I was,
Hey, you probably saw somebody walking around with a hood on, and
yeah.
yeah.
Well, good luck walking home.
Oh no. I might take the back route through the cemetery.
We can get you an Uber.
Oh, I planned ahead.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks, Middagh and
You're
Modestoview.
welcome. I think that's it then.
All right. Thanks to Roger, and
Good luck editing this down, and when you're ready, send it to me. I'll share it on the Modestoview page.
sounds good. We'll see you around.
Fantastic.